Welcome to Muscle Maintenance within Shape Fitness. I'm Coach Kim. Thank you so much for joining me for today's podcast. Our session is called a snooze button's worth of exercise. So in the morning, when you first you hear the wake up call, the alarm clock, however it is that you wake up. And if it's an alarm clock, you want to hit that snooze button. I talk to so many clients, and I even do this, especially in the wintertime, where you press the snooze button because the executive part of your brain isn't awake enough to know that that extra 10 minutes or even a 20-minute interlude, if you hit the snooze button twice, isn't going to add to the quality of your day. What will add to the quality of your day, however, is a segment of stimulating exercise moves, and this session is a little bit of a background about the need for stimulating movements at the first moment that you wake up before you pretty much do anything else, and then how to integrate some of those really simple moves into your morning routine. I'm also going to tell you a little bit of story about one of my favorite morning exercises and the change of the name and how it affected its popularity. So first, let's get started with the postural systems check, because we begin all of our exercise routines with a simple focus on where your body is in space and your deep breathing and the position of your head, which is how we'll start today. So remember, your head, which weighs about 11 pounds, is a pretty heavy piece of equipment that you have to carry around all day. You think about if you had to carry around an 11-pound medicine ball, or if you are a mom and you have carried around an 11-pound child for a long period of time, or had the pregnancy weight of a baby in recent months, where it's in your sort of still instilled in your memory, you know that that's not easy. But yet our heads sit atop our necks and our shoulders every single day. So the position of your head is a really significant factor in your center of gravity, in your quality of life, in terms of aches and pains and stresses that develop in your upper back and neck and the rest of your core, and it even affects the way that you ambulate, the way that you move around. So that's the position of your head. Your ears and your shoulders should line up vertically. It's called the plumb line. It's an invisible line that is drawn straight down the side of your body, and which sort of indicates where your major joints should be in terms of your head, and between the positions of your head and your ankles, your feet. So the plumb line runs down the side of your head, through your ears, and through your shoulders. And that shoulder position helps indicate whether not only is your head forward or back or in the right spot, but also are your shoulders kind of rounded, collapsing your chest and pulling on your upper back, or are your shoulders back? So the second part of the postural systems check is to simply think about pushing your shoulders back, taking a couple of deep breaths by inhaling real deeply through your nose. And then I say bellow the carbon dioxide out of your mouth, so that you activate your diaphragm and really focus on the activity, the efficiency of your respiration, of your lung capacity. Then think about your tummy and your back. So you want to zip up your tummy muscles. You pull your belly button in towards your spine, in and up kind of, and then tuck in your tailbone so that your butt doesn't stick out too much, which is a byproduct of our sedentary lives. We have something called lordosis. That's it's a deviation from standard posture that is largely based on the fact that our butts are not moving through the day, or that our pelvis is inadvertently tilting forward, which jets the butt out in the back, and that collapses your lower back. It contracts those lower back muscles, and guess what else it does? It pulls on your hip flexors and causes them to tighten up, because when you are standing, which obviously if you're sitting, you're also contracting the hip flexors and they're tightening up in that position. Your hip flexors are not getting the kind of blood flow and fluid transport, that nutrient transport that helps keep that soft tissue supple and responsive to your body's movements. Really important. These really simple things just to think about are really significant in terms of the quality of your day. Now, You want to make sure that you're pressing into the floor with both of your legs relatively evenly. How many times do you watch someone just sort of standing in the line at the grocery store, or maybe waiting for an elevator or on a subway platform, and you notice that they kind of stand with one hip collecting more body weight than the other, or they move around a little bit, but they're never really standing fully erect. You want to make sure that you're pressing into the floor with both legs as evenly as possible. And if you're not, you want to make sure that you're distributing your body weight between the two legs with relative amount of balance. So like if you do stand, let's say, it's one of my favorite really easy sedentary moves is something I call an archer's lunge. And you can try that actually right now. With an archer's lunge, all you're going to do, your feet are both facing forward right now. All you're going to do is pretend like you need to turn to the right with one leg. So you're going to take the right foot and you're going to pick up the right knee. It's going to lift a little bit and you're going to twist or rotate rather the whole body with your eyes to the right so that your right foot faces exactly 90 degrees away from your left foot and is a couple feet away. So it's sort of step to the right and out, and then put a little bend in that right knee, little bend, and put a little weight forward towards the right knee. So you'll feel the inner thigh of the left leg activate a little bit, and you're going to feel the conjunction of all of the soft tissues in your lower pelvis rotate around. That is helpful to the hip flexor on the left side and the butt on the left side that has to orient and also your vestibular system. You have to completely reorient your body from facing forward to facing 90 degrees to your right. So that's an archer's lunge. And if you're going to do that to the right, then you also want to do it to the left. All right, now that's the postural systems check. The exercise that is always the most helpful in the morning is something that gets you down on the floor and then stands you all the way back up. Now, I know the word burpee, and we're going to talk about naming exercises in just a second, or naming one exercise or renaming one exercise, and how the turning point of the use of that move has really not been so great for its reputation. But I'll tell you the story of it in a second. So the burpee is another one of those exercises that gets a bad reputation because of the sort of military style, activity level, the high intensity of the squatting down with the jump back of your feet and then the jump forward and the jump up. Now, plyometrics jumping is something I add into every single exercise regimen. And even if it's just a teeny tiny little skip at the end of this exercise routine, which we're going to do, or maybe a couple of jumping jacks in the morning, I actually wake up and do a series of exercises, the same 6 exercises basically every single morning. And 21, for some reason, that's the number of repetitions I always do. It's based on the 5 Tibetans. I always do 21 jumping jacks. So I love jumping jacks, even though they're not super fancy and sexy. But a burpee in its low intensity form, either a walkout plank or walkout push-up or a walking burpee, or something I call burpeeta, is a really great way to hinge at your hips, lower your body down to the floor, press your palms and your fingertips, splayed fingertips, into the floor, place them on the floor beside your legs, and then walk or jump your feet out to push-up position, or you can walk your hands out away from your feet. You can keep your feet still. So however you want to get to prone position, which is the hand plank position, or the first push-up position, the starting push-up position. A lot of sirens in my New York City neighborhood this morning. So there you go. You know I live in New York City, but of course you probably know that anyway. Now you're going to get back into your squatted position and stand all the way up. And that's another important part of this exercise routine. And that's because as you move in multiple dimensions, planes of motion, multiple dimensions, and then utilize multiple body parts, so compound movements really activate your energy level and your metabolism. And that is so important first thing in the morning. It is utterly wrong everyone who has ever been telling you that your workouts need to be, twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, depending on how much weight you want to lose or what event you wanted to take part in. All of that sort of nonsense, the marketing of our consumption exercise industry is completely and utterly misleading. Now, it's important to get exercise experiences into your regimen, into your life, like to recreate, to have fun with your family outdoors. But every single morning, you need to activate your body physically. We feed the body nutrients. Now we need to move those nutrients around. And the way that we do that is by moving the body. So when you wake up, before you have breakfast, before you do anything else, get into the prone position, the push-up position, and then get out of it for 2 or 3 minutes. And so that's the burpee or the walkout, depending on what you want to call it. The other exercise, specific exercise that's really, really good for you to do in the morning is a hip bridge. So if you turn to your backs now and you lie on the floor, your knees are bent and your feet are on the floor flat. The bridge is an elevated torso, and your hips are lifted up into the air. Your hands are beside your body, palms down. Again, splay your fingers. When you have the opportunity to wiggle your fingers or to open up the fingers wide for a little bit of flexibility work, you should take that opportunity. So, there aren't that many opportunities, especially when we're using our thumbs and our fingers are close together with these smaller and smaller keyboards. So the hip bridge, your hips are lifted up and your feet are flat on the floor. Now, it's really important that you keep your feet flat on the floor and that your toes and heels line up. There are variations on hip bridge when you might do something different, but the standard hip bridge is for bent knees, ankles and knees are lined up vertically, and then your hips are lifted in the air, your feet are flat on the floor, your heels and toes line up vertically. Okay? Now you can lower and lift to your heart's desire. I only want to give you one more exercise because I want to make sure that I can tell the story. And the last exercise is the one I'll tell the story about. And it goes back to World War II military drills. And apparently a man named Jack Revilla, who was very difficult to work with. He was a drill sergeant, and he did something that was called, back in those days, a body dip with his regiments. And the body dip was invented because it was getting down on the ground and then lowering the body to be able to crawl as close to the ground as possible, to move on the ground adeptly in military battle, right? So you started with your hands up at the start of a push-up, and then your body dipped down low, and then you moved along. Maybe in military drills it was underneath a sort of stretched barbed wire, but it was, the purpose of it was for military men and women, military men predominantly in this age obviously, but for human beings to be able to move around as close to the ground as possible. And that's really difficult to do, of course. However, we don't really have much need for that anymore, which may or may not be a significant part of our obesity crisis and general health crisis that we have, at least in the United States. But Jack Revilla started calling this move a push-up. He was the person we credit for giving it this name, and it's the exercise that everyone hates to do. But I do 21 of these every single morning, and that is because not only does this exercise force you to move with your arms, incorporating the stability of your trunk. So it's a multi-dimensional compound exercise in terms of using your chest muscles, using your back muscles, using your shoulders. It uses your biceps. But because you're in the plank position the entire time, all of the layers of muscle that protect and wrap your vital organs and your rib cage, and then make that corset around your rib cage, and then you have your obliques. Of course, you have the rectus abdominis and the erector spinae muscle, the front and the back muscles, that all have to work together as a team in order to stabilize your trunk. And because of that automatic isometric contraction, your effort is amplified. And that's why push-ups are so hard. It is also why they are so beloved by people in the business that I'm in, where I don't want you to get super sweaty and have to take a shower necessarily, though you might do that every morning to get ready for work anyways. I want you to be able to take 10 or 15 or even maybe 18 or 20 minutes to stimulate your body, activate your energy level, activate your spirit, and keep you out of the mindset that the only way you're going to get your exercise is if you swipe a membership card at a gym or in a studio. It's not sustainable, and we're looking for some other ways to improve our health outcomes as we move toward more gym-free fitness. So that is a little longer than 10 minutes, but again, it's just 3 exercises. You have the burpeeta or burpee or a walkout, whichever of those variations you like the most. Remember, it's getting down, hinging correctly by hinging and lowering your body straight down to the floor to put your hands on the floor. Bending over, bad on the back, right? So you want to be careful of that. And then you move your body into push-up position. And you do that for a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, maybe 3. If you want to count repetitions, do 10 or 15. Then you get into hip bridge position and you finish with push-ups. 8 to 10 minutes every morning. That's your snooze button's worth of exercise. I'm Coach Kim from In Shape Fitness. I'll see you again soon.